This story is about a man named Kim. As most of his childhood had been pampered by his parents, the man was very lazy. As time went by, it was until his mother became old and no longer had physical ability to work. Together with the scolding of his older siblings, the man decided to go out looking for a job. But Kim had no idea where he was heading to. He didn't even know what job would be suitable for him either. Luckily, he encountered a construction site on the way and assumed there would be a job for him. As Kim walked in the place, he met a worker with a cigarette in his mouth, looking bossy. Kim asked the man if he knew any job that was cushy enough for him to take. The man suggested him taking the job he was doing. He told Kim that he just needed to stay at the construction site, guarding it for a time period of 6 months. Kim agreed to take the job, and today was also his first day at work. After he was given the job, he followed the man to take a look around the site, then went to his row houses to stay. It was old row houses. Seemed like they had been built a long time ago, but strangely as he arrived there, he saw nobody. There were just utter silence and pitch black darkness. But Kim didn't care much about it. As for him, having an easy job like this had already been an achievement to him, so the man didn't ask for anything else. After a long day of working, he felt exhausted, and it was weary to think of going out finding something to eat, so he chose to order food online. 15 minutes later, the food was delivered to him. Life being away from mom was amazing, the man thought to himself. He could sleep throughout the day, and with a phone that had access to Wi-Fi, he could order any kind of food he wanted to. After he finished his meal, he didn't even bother to clean up the mess as he left it there, and went outside to check the construction site. 20 minutes later, Kim returned to his shelter and went to bed. The man had fallen asleep as soon as he closed his eyes. But when it came to midnight, Kim suddenly had a feeling of heaviness all over his body. Even though he changed his sleeping position multiple times, he still found it uncomfortable to go back to sleep. He also felt cold and his body was drenched with sweat. At first, Kim tried to close his eyes tightly so he could get back to sleep, but failed to do it as he felt like there was someone behind him, while there was rustling to be heard. Feeling unable to put up with the bizarreness going on, Kim got up. He looked around, yet found no one in the room but him. Observing for a while, suddenly he stopped his gaze at the table. He didn't know why he did it, but he had a bad premonition. He tried to assure himself that there was nothing odd happening. It was just his imagination, and then went back to sleep. The next morning, Kim woke up to tiredness as he didn't have a good sleep the night before. He got out of bed with his eyes barely open. But as Kim walked past the table next to his bed, he suddenly widened his eyes, mouth agape in amazement. Looked like he had seen something surprising. Turned out that what he saw was the empty food containers on the table. If he recalled correctly, they were leftovers from last night, but somehow they all disappeared. The chicken pieces and the bowl of soup had been eaten. The doors had been locked before he went to sleep, so there wouldn't be any chance that cats or dogs could break into the room, even the smaller ones. Kim was really curious about the mysterious disappearance of the leftovers, and for that reason he intended to bring more food with him and leave some leftovers for the night, as he wanted to find out who had eaten the food that night. This time he brought more food to the room, and only ate sparingly. The man was under the impression these leftovers would lure the ones who dared to steal his food that night. Kim intended to stay up all night to catch the culprits, but he was soundly asleep before the clock struck midnight. But just like the previous night, as soon as the clock said 12 o'clock, Kim once again had a feeling of heaviness all over his body, as if there was someone laying on him, which made him feel uncomfortable. The rustling together with the old gusts of wind awoke him. He again had a bad premonition, but this time he didn't quickly sit up. Instead, he slightly opened his eyes and turned his gaze onto the table. Kim took a deep breath to reassure himself, then slowly opened his eyes. His face suddenly changed color. Now, it wasn't just the amazement he expressed when he found out about the incident this morning, but it was a terrifying expression on his face. There were flickering white shadows gathering around the table where he placed his food. Ghosts were standing around the table, picking up food with their bare hands and devouring it. The ghosts looked like they had been left starving for years. The white shadows with lifeless eyes had easily freaked out anyone. Despite panicking, Kim still came up with a way to chase the ghosts away, as he reached out to the switch and turned the lights on. Indeed, the ghosts disappeared as soon as he turned the lights on. Kim couldn't believe his eyes, or what he had just seen. To confirm what he'd been thinking was true, he plucked up his courage and walked to the table. Indeed, the food had disappeared. There were just empty plates left on it. Without a doubt, it was the ghosts that had eaten the leftovers, but this affirmation made Kim really scared. The man had a habit of leaving leftovers since he was a young kid, but this was his first time dealing with such a thing. Kim couldn't understand why this horrifying incident had happened to him. Was it him, or was this place haunted with voracious ghosts? But to reassure himself, Kim tried to come up with another answer for the problem he was dealing with, as he assumed he might have had hallucinations. Kim got back to his bed, tightly closed his eyes, and waited for the sun to rise. The next morning, to clear his mind, Kim set out to town and went to a market. The noisy atmosphere at the market would help him forget about the fears he had last night. As Kim was walking around, he saw some fortune tellers. Recalling the incident last night, he approached them. A fortune teller looked at him and said, "Are there ghosts in your house? You look very anxious." Surprised by how quickly the man could find out about his problem, Kim told him everything about the bizarre incident and asked for his help. The man's face became darkened as he listened to the story. According to him, the construction site was once a mass grave, and most of them were left abandoned. The apartment building was built right on the mass grave. As a result, this place was often seen with starving ghosts at night, but they didn't harm anyone. However, Kim still asked the man to help him as he was scared. The fortune teller gave him a talisman, saying it would keep the ghosts away as long as it was placed at the front of the door. He even told Kim not to leave leftovers. Having received the talisman, Kim gave the man some money, then quickly left. With the talisman in his hand, Kim was bewildered, not knowing what to do. Even though he was scared of the ghosts, part of him still wanted to help them since they were pitiful and harmless to people. It took Kim a while to finally make a decision on whether to hang the talisman at the front of the door or not. If he did it, the ghost wouldn't be able to enter his room, but he didn't have the will to do it. Being hesitant for a while, Kim decided to throw the talisman away, as he believed the ghosts would never try to harm him. Since that day, somehow he was no longer bothered by the ghosts. Actually, he had placed a table outside the room and put some of his food onto it. The food was there for the pitiful ghosts to eat. From being a man with lazy, uncaring attitude, Kim had turned over a new leaf and became a better person.